It all starts with two waifus walking around, while one of them really enjoys her food, and that's Hibiki, who is savoring her snack a bit too much until her friend tells her she's overdoing it with the carnitas. This leaves the waifu in shock, as she doesn't understand how a life of lounging around and eating a lot has led her to weigh more than Warzone. But luckily, her friend has a good suggestion: either go on a diet or resign herself to being a waifu Warzone. Hibiki realizes she's gained weight and starts a diet. She joins a gym. There she meets Kemi, a schoolmate. The girl then signs up for a gym, as her motivation to work out at home went away after 2 km 3 push-ups, or rather, it was because of the free day. There, she meets Kemi, a schoolmate. Kemi is excited to see someone her age losing weight. Hibiki keeps her distance while heading to the machines. Kemi is excited by the guys flirting. Her trainer Macho charms her into signing up. They start training with Macho, learning the bench press. Hibiki immediately thinks she's a health nut, so she plans to keep her distance while heading towards the machines, where there are only JoJo fans who look like they can lift about 50 kilo in lateral raises. The blonde waifu sees the perfect moment to escape, but Kemi is all excited because the guys are acting like total flirts. The blonde, noticing this particular vibe, tries to leave on her own, but her personal trainer named Macho shows up. With a friendly face, he ends up charming her, making her forget everything else and sign up right away. The next day, she starts training. They begin with Macho's bench press lesson. Kemi poses to show muscle beauty while learning safe lifting. Now it's the waifu's turn. Hibiki starts with the 20 kilo bar, nearly giving up until she feels her strength. She follows Kemi, who lifts double. By the end, the blonde feels weak, but her trainer reassures her it's normal for a first day. She goes into shock, loses clothing, and strikes a strong pose. It's the waifu's turn. Hibiki starts with the 20 kilo bar. She follows Kemi, who lifts double. The blonde feels weak. She goes into shock. Hibiki is sore all over. She considers quitting but decides to return. The blonde feels weak, but it's normal. She loses clothing. Exciting Kemi. Hibiki is sore, prefers sweets. She returns to the gym. Thrilling Kemi. Hibiki is sore, so Kemi suggests protein shakes. She considers quitting but prepaid for the year, so she'll return. Her friend worries about her uniform's elastic. She returns for squats with Kemi ahead. During warm-up, Hibiki nearly faints. Akemi cheers her on, saying she'll be a powerhouse. On the other hand, her friend is more worried because the elastic in her uniform is about to burst, which motivates the blonde to focus on losing her belly, but of course, without giving up her treats. So she goes back to the gym, where she'll have to do some serious squats, and Kemi gets ahead of her, still super excited. And now it's Hibiki's turn, who during the warm-up without weights almost sees the light, which gets worse when she uses the bar that nearly sends her to meet San Pedro. Until Akemi cheers her on, telling her that with that, she'll be a total powerhouse, making her unleash her power-up from her little asterisk. After the workout, Akemi asks her gym sister how many times she eats a day, and it turns out Hibiki is on a dirty bulk, eating junk food 6 times a day. Sometime later, the blonde waifu, motivated by her results, steps back on the scale, but her spirits drop when she sees that she's gained some weight. She realizes that she would only lose it faster with a mega restrictive diet, which usually leads to rebound effects, causing those who use them to gain it back once they start eating normally again. So she tells them to eat a lot and then show off their muscles. When Kemi arrives, Macho starts explaining the day's workout, and this time it's cable rows, but the blonde doesn't want to do it because she has a really muscular back. She tells Kemi that that kind of back is for people with a lot of training. After this, they move on to the protein bar, where Macho serves up some good strawberry protein with branched-chain amino acids, which is supposed to give good results 30 minutes after the workout. Since Hibiki heard protein and remembered her science classes, she decides to bring Kemi a more powerful protein, a mega steak with white rice, which is clearly not her first dish. Although the next day Kemi wants to train, her friend's hair hurts, so they decide to rest and go to the office. Hibiki is worried that her swimsuit might burst, while Akemi shows off her skills in spotting athletes by their physiques, identifying a cyclist by her well-toned legs, a karateka who can really pack a punch, and a girl with a solid back who probably practices judo. But now it's time to switch to glue mode because it's swimming time, so the blonde waifu stretches, but Akemi cuts her off right away to explain that static stretches decrease muscle strength before training and suggests dynamic stretches instead. She starts off really excited until one movement causes Hibiki's swimsuit to come off, leaving the girl embarrassed. Then, Hibiki and her friend named Guerra Hayaka see a version of Arnold from their world, who is a mercenary in a conflict carrying little dolls on his shoulder and somehow has a plot more complex than Evangelion. So the girls decide to binge watch all the movies to understand them. Ayaka's sister cuts the hype by making her sister work in the family business, which, thanks to knowing the blonde waifu, is nothing less than a boxing gym owned by their father, a former boxer. Both Ayaka and her sister get things in order, because even though the girl complains, she's clearly very good. So she suggests an exercise for abs, which is too much for Ayaka's blonde sister. She'd rather teach her how to throw a punch. With a lot of nerves, she visualizes her target, and with an aura of power, the blonde waifu delivers a mega punch that destroys the bag, enough to showcase her talent as a world champion. On the other hand, we meet Tomita Ivana, the history teacher at the academy, who says she's single and a bit on the heavier side. But luckily, her colleague Anya comforts her by saying at least she doesn't have anyone to show her belly to, and the solution is to suggest going to Jim Silverman. However, Satomi worries about running into parents or students, to which the other teacher doesn't hesitate to say at least with her students, so she decides to go, just as she finds the girls. The teachers are thinking about leaving since they see their students are acting all crazy, but then Macho shows up, leaving the teacher more hooked than a table leg. Satomi trains at home but can't move. Days later, Hibiki blames age, revealing the teacher's scary side. Interrupted by Macho, Satomi plans bicep curls, focusing. Now Satomi is going to do some good bicep curls, where the important thing is technique and controlling the weight without straining her back from swinging. Everything is chill here until Hibiki notices a strange tan on the teacher, who is immediately left speechless. So she gets interrogated, but luckily Macho tells her to respect her classmates' weird hobbies, which at least saves Satomi, although now the Kremlin takes it away. But at least she manages to hide her real hobby, which is her tempting cosplay. Then the trio of girls gathers to eat, where Hibiki pulls out a massive lunch that she uses to cover both breakfast and a snack, a great diet idea according to Ayaka, until Akemi clarifies that this is the diet of sumo wrestlers, but for gaining weight, as it sends enough insulin to build muscle and fat. They then suggest a bodybuilder's diet, which is to eat enough and balanced, not to eat like a caveman, as the blonde waifu thought. Don't overdo it, girl, I'm not going to fill up. But that's what protein bars are for. And of course, there are cheat days where she can indulge every now and then. So Hibiki starts her diet, but with a cheat day, eating everything. Tomi enjoys her cosplay until students seek Macho, the king of muscles. Satomi learns military presses from him, but is embarrassed when discovered. The girls face a crowded gym, but find a secluded area thanks to Macho. Yaka, distracted by Macho, is warned he's a muscular beast. The gym closes, so Akemi offers her mansion for training. They use a weightless training book, but a chair breaks. Hibiki offers to pay, but the wealthy host assures her it's fine. Satomi has no idea what the heck this is, but it helps her go unnoticed while he starts his Macho lesson on how to do military presses and work the deltoids correctly. However, by the end of the day, Satomi is discovered by everyone, leaving her embarrassed. Then the girls go to enjoy their summer being single and training, only to encounter the most terrifying thing about vacation. A gym full of people wanting to get ripped in 2 weeks, or, alternatively, looking for a partner. A minimum league of gods. This means all the benches and treadmills are occupied until Macho shows them a lonely area of machines, which Akemi calls heresy. But the trainer explains the charm of machines, which prevent the overuse of other muscles during lifting, focusing on the chest, having everything needed to help a blonde get a boost, to enlarge her chest. Just when the gym starts to empty, Yaka arrives, which worries Hibiki because she thinks she lost her dojo, when in reality, she's just a boxer giving classes and now training with her friends. Until Yaka loses her focus because of her charming Prince Macho, although her friend warns her that more than that, he's a muscular beast. Meanwhile, the sensei watches as more students arrive at the gym. However, the girls' mansion is cut short one day when they find the gym closed and all the places where they can train. So Akemi decides to offer her house, which is a gigantic mansion owned by millionaires where there's not much to train with. So the rich girl pulls out a weightless training book written by a bodybuilder with a pig-like face, which has a video. In this video, he teaches how to do dips with chairs, and everything was going smoothly until they try to add more weight and one of them breaks. Hibiki offers to pay for them, but the wealthy waifu tells her that there's plenty of money here, and honestly, that's good because that thing costs more than the girl's house. Then, the 3 girls and the teacher go on vacation to the beach, where Satomi is thinking about losing weight when they reach their destination, but their destination is just closed. However, that doesn't stop them from showing off their bodies, training in bikini fitness. Since they can't look for boyfriends, they decide to train by doing burpees and push-ups combined with jumps. That's how they start training, surprisingly not bouncing from the jumps, while the locals see them as very motivated girls, as they even finish with some sprints that leave them drenched in sweat. Back at school, Sensei 2009 looks like she was hit by a train, while the girls are as fresh as a cucumber. And now back in class. The sports festival is coming up, which makes Hibiki feel super lazy, although she doubts they'll pick her for anything because there are so many athletes in her class. But unfortunately for her, the teacher will choose the events by lottery, and she ends up in the final event, the relay race, as the last runner. The blonde waifu vents her frustrations while she and her friends mess around on the big macho neck bridge. In the end, the blonde waifu admits that she can't do much in terms of speed since she's a bit on the chubby side, just like her teacher, and can't compete with the athletic physiques of her friends, mostly because she doesn't have long legs. But the teacher tells her that the solution isn't just in her legs, but in her muscles, specifically her hamstrings, which are what allow you to kick it into high gear. And so, with an explanation of how the machine makes you run faster, we see the teacher making some noises while she's really getting into the workout, which she admitted was more intense than the ones she was used to. Hibiki is eager to win the relay and tone her body. She trains hard, doing bicycle crunches to strengthen her hips. During the sports festival, her class is struggling, but she runs without pressure. The final event is intense, and Hibiki competes against her friend Kemi. Despite slipping and dropping the baton, she finishes second. Akemi congratulates her, but Hibiki is disqualified due to a rule violation, leaving her disappointed. But time passes for the sports festival, which only has one event left, and Hibiki's classroom is in rough shape, so she runs without pressure. However, according to Aina, the event will be like last goal wins, which puts pressure back on the waifu, who will have to compete against her friend Kemi. Luckily, she did a special solo training, and here we see a flashback with Macho explaining how to strengthen some back muscles that allow for hip movement. He shows an exercise to train it, and that's how the waifu ends up doing bicycle crunches, which strengthen her hips and shape her waist, making Hibiki even more excited because she wants to have some curves. And that's how they see that it's just them left in a one-on-one with her friend waiting to receive the baton. But when they both go for it, Hibiki slips and drops it, having to pick it up. Still, she manages to do it and gets really close to Akemi, trying to give it her all, but she ends up losing in the end. However, Akemi congratulates her for her speed and her second place, but she will only remember first place because Satomi tells her gym partner that according to the rules, her partner should have picked up the baton, not her. So she gets disqualified, which leaves her pretty bummed out for a couple of days. Sometime later, the girls decide to have another competition to see who can last the longest in a sauna. After a couple of hours, it all comes down to the waifu, Robbie, and the teacher, or so it seemed since the teacher had been passed out for a while. In the end, Hibiki wins all the tickets for a Spy 2009 raffle, whose grand prize was a t-shirt that she ends up giving to her wealthy friend. Meanwhile, her Russian friend arrives in Japan looking for a macho or a fight. Honestly, I don't know. Hibiki wants a home theater but can't afford it. Macho announces a hand wrestling contest with a cash prize. The trainer says it uses the whole body. Hibiki and Ayaka compete. Luckily for her, when Silverman arrives, Macho announces a hand wrestling contest with a nice cash prize. The trainer explains the rules to the girls with a table set up to convince them to join, starting his muscle lesson by explaining that hand wrestling uses the whole body. The correct way to do it is to move your entire body to avoid injury. So the suggestion is to keep your eyes on your opponent's arm, just like you shouldn't take your eyes off the explanation until the end. And so Hibiki and Ayaka will have a friendly match where Ayaka goes all out. The blonde waifu, like with the bug, brings out her inner beast and wins easily, leaving everyone surprised. Now Kemi wants to go, but Macho interrupts to be the next opponent, and that's where a tight duel begins until Macho uses his muscular tone to win, although Hibiki felt she knew the outcome from the start. Then comes the day of the competition, where hundreds of huge, scary men arrive at once, all of whom turn out to be super cool at registration. On the other hand, the women's tournament has been reduced without Ayaka or the teacher. And now, with Akemi having a cold, the tournament will have few rounds, just one to be exact. And so, with a quick final, Hibiki meets her rival Gina Voigt, the mysterious Russian from the Kremlin who placed 5th in the strength competition in Moscow, a powerhouse in strength sports. However, Hibiki isn't intimidated and is after honor and glory, or rather, the cash. But first, there's an interview with Gina, who seems to fit the stereotype of the smart Russian looking for a macho and the 2009 victory. She also has 2 mega techniques to win: the hook to catch the opponent's hand and the roll, which involves taking away strength by grabbing the thumb. Gina arrives confidently, seeing that the blonde waifu is her age. Plus, she has a good reason to win, to pay for her plane ticket. But her inner beast comes out, leaving Gina colder than usual. And with just one move, Hibiki wins. She celebrates her victory, ready to buy her home theater. Although Ayaka suggests she should buy some clothes first, because when she trains like a beast, she ends up looking like Macho. And just as classes resume, Hibiki receives a revenge threat from Gina, although she doesn't think she'll make it back to Japan. But Gina is still there as a student at her school, and it seems like she's going to confront or pressure Hibiki. Gina's next move is to challenge the blonde waifu in front of the whole class, where she clearly isn't present, comically confronting the girls about it. She finds it strange that her personality has changed, to which the Russian replies that as a little Russian in an anime, she can only be one of 3 stereotypes: cold and distant, smart and manipulative, or a total yandere, all to honor her buff leader who develops bears. So she usually combines all 3 to her advantage. After Akime asks her how much weight she lifts, to her new gym pro, she proceeds to explain that she usually doesn't use weights, diving into the lesson on how to be dominated with grip, her penis, and prone positions, ultimately challenging Hibiki to do them to test her strength. However, Hibiki can't do a single one, although Gina thinks she's hiding her power-up, so she leaves to go with her adoptive family, which to Hibiki's surprise is actually her family. That's how Hibiki seems to get used to her new companion, who surprises her by also speaking the language, to which she replies that she learned by watching anime. The girls are planning a welcome party for Kina, but Hibiki has to work, so she invites her to her job at a restaurant with a massive barbecue that the girls devour right away. Meanwhile, Macho and the teacher in Bakita mode show up to explain the protein benefits of animal meat, breaking down each cut from the excellent loin and liver, which have a lot of protein and very little fat, to the galbi, which is quite fatty. However, the girls keep enjoying the meat to the point of fighting over it. Finally, the moment of Hibiki's meal arrives, which looks like it's meant for an entire army. The Russian waifu thinks it's part of her special strength training, like a fighter who only eats once a day in huge amounts and spends the rest of the day training. But really, the waifu is just having her cheat day, and what a cheat day it is. Then Hibiki has to go back to work because gym and food don't pay for themselves, but thanks to a scholarship that Takemi's sister has, gym will be able to pay for itself, so Hibiki will have more money to eat. Later, while Gina isn't paying attention in class, she has time to think about anime, which leads her to recognize Satomi as the famous cosplayer Julia Rico. Then we see how both of them leave the gym, so that Gina can indulge herself by photographing the sensei dressed as Chun-Li, and we go back to when Jin admits having discovered her. With nothing else to do, the teacher decides to offer her body and soul, but the Russian doesn't want that since she likes anime and cosplay, so she won't say anything. However, the teacher sees this as too altruistic, so she tries to offer something to seal the deal, and in the end, it turns out to be a date. After Gina explains that slow jogging is good for reducing post-workout muscle pain, Satomi jogs even though she doesn't know where she's going. Gina reveals that she wants to see who, according to her, will be her new idol rival, as she plans to form a group with the girls and the teacher. Being bound by her secret, the teacher ends up accepting, but unfortunately for her, the other girls do too, since a TV producer saw that there are only regular idols. Then, the GM girls make their entrance in bikinis, being carried by the most muscular guys in the gym with a really random name, including the teacher who wears a fencing mask and a very suggestive guy to hide her identity. They have to showcase their special skills, and Jackie shows off her skills in a tough match while Hibiki and Akimi demonstrate a bench press, which leaves the audience and the producer in awe. But out of confusion, the producer doesn't understand anything and sees how Satomi prepares the final event, which a macho guy out of nowhere explains to the producer is a dangerous exercise for knees and backs that requires a lot of pressure. After the explanation, he manages to make the stadium go wild, and the producer understands that idols should be normal because they really went overboard here. Later at school, Kuro and Aina invite Satomi for some drinks, but she can't make it and quickly leaves her gift card behind. So the good friends decide to return it to her and take advantage of the free day, surprised to run into their students who are talking about trying again as idols. Teacher Kuro says she's there for her little roles, to which Aina tells her to chill because she looks great for her age, which brings out the scary side of the teacher. Luckily, Macho arrives to save her and gives a lesson on obliques with bicycles, crunches, and lateral weightlifting. Macho recommends training with light weights until you get used to it, but Kuro is incredible, using the heaviest dumbbell, leaving everyone surprised, especially because of her age, which brings out the dark side of the teacher again, although it seems like they're doing really well. Once she leaves, Satomi is surprised that Gina was acting more normal, but that's only because she was busy thinking about how to get the teachers to join the idol group. And so, another day arrives where Aina and Kuro take their classes on a field trip to the mountains, where Ayaka worries about whether they're in danger. Satomi tells them to relax until they see the terrifying statues in the middle of the forest that make them doubt. Still, the journey seems nice for everyone, except for Satomi, Aina, and Hibiki, who are lacking in cardio. However, the latter just needs to eat to regain her energy. This is how Akemi explains the correct way to hike. taking short, calm steps to avoid getting too tired and to go faster. The girls apply this, leaving 3 behind. Once they catch on, Hibiki's barbecue excitement leads them astray. Others reach the summit. The trio panics, realizing they're lost. Aina calms her and they prepare wills. Hibiki writes a poem. The saint suggests another plan. They ensure their bodies are identifiable. The sensei plans to climb a tree for orientation. While the rest reach the summit, the 3 lost girls realize they are really off track, which sends Satomi into a panic. But Aina stops her and calms her down since she and the blonde waifu know what to do. So they pull out pencil and paper to prepare their wills, and Hibiki writes a poem showcasing her talent for rhymes. However, the saint convinces them to do something else, and they make sure their bodies are easily identifiable, showing their slim hopes. The sensei has a plan, to climb a tree to get her bearings. First, they give a lesson on tree climbing, using a tree, a rope, or a climbing machine, which will engage all their muscle groups. Their first attempt ends in failure, so they need to find a more efficient way. And what better than to try it without clothes? So they attempt to climb the tree while the rest of the group watches them, assuming they wanted to move to the training area, thus missing out on lunch. In a distant mansion, a muscle beast prepares to go to Japan. Meanwhile, in Japan, Macho arrives, strips, and starts a rowing lesson. The sensei. Meanwhile in Japan, Macho bursts into the chapter at full speed, taking off all his clothes and starting today's lesson on rowing with pulleys for the back. The sensei thinks the chapter is moving too fast, to which Ayaka responds by providing context without any excuses about her favorite trainer, who seems to have studied training techniques abroad. But everything is interrupted by Makio's excessively hard muscles, even more than usual, which hints at the arrival of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, this guy named Barnold, what a cheap and pathetic knockoff. Hibiki and Ayaka recognize him as their favorite famous actor, who came from the US, to act in muscle-filled, action-packed movies that are clearly parodies of Arnold's movies. Even though none of the other girls know him, the sensei thinks she knows one where he plays a robot that saves a kid from the future, but I think that's from another blonde Australian. As the muscular guys face off, Macho confronts him, saying that since he graduated, he hasn't contacted him, and there's a very serious reason for that. The fake Terminator's phone fell into the water. On the other hand, Macho accidentally broke his while striking some poses. So with that clarified, the fake Terminator lies that he found it by chance, but he actually traveled there to test his muscles by using a hand grip that only 100 people in the world can use. However, Macho not only uses it, but also crushes it, passing the test for the next round. An international bodybuilding competition, and we just arrived at this one, where a famous movie star takes several young girls to a VIP area, which really sounds bad out of context. There we have the explanation of the bodybuilding competition, where several different poses are judged, and they will earn points for it. So, they evaluate good muscle balance, being well-oiled, and posing like a pro. Although Kemi is only interested in seeing muscular men, and so the moment arrives for Macho to participate, and with just one pose, he gets recognized as the king of muscles, unleashing a flash that leaves all the spectators, including the girls, or something like that, without clothes, since it was a muscle illusion, and that's how he ends up with an easy victory. But now reunited with his master, he confesses that he knows there weren't many top bodybuilders in the competition, to which Barnold reveals that it was another test for the final competition in Las Vegas, where Macho will have to go, or maybe not, since he has a job to fulfill. In the end, Barney leaves him a bootleg version of Jason Statham to keep an eye on him and help him achieve his goals, although this guy will blend in with the other buff kneeheads. And so, the Christmas season arrives, and the girls celebrate by admiring the beautiful holiday decorations amidst a bunch of couples, realizing that they are still mega super single. Feeling down, they head back to the Jeep, where Macho, being a good guy, tries to cheer them up by carrying more weight. In the midst of all this muscle, Satomi is surprised that Akemi still doesn't have a boyfriend, but that's because she's waiting for a super muscular guy, and just thinking about it makes her feel all hot and bothered. Right there, Macho suggests Jim's Christmas gathering, where the college students who train at a different time will be, giving them the chance to find a partner. This convinces the girls, and Hibiki will try to win them over with her figure. But Ayaka reminds her that she put on a bit of weight for the holidays, so it's time to train those arms like jelly. That's where Macho's lesson begins, as he teaches how to do skull crushers to build up the triceps using the Z-bar while keeping the elbow straight. Ayaka does it perfectly, and now it's Hibiki's turn, who, due to neglecting her technique, learns why they call the exercise skull crushers. But the waifu only ends up with a bump, which won't stop her from her goal of finding a boyfriend. And that's how they go to the party in Christmas costumes, except for the sensei, who arrives looking like a tempting Mrs. Santa Claus. While Sakami is distracted watching her trainer, the others start the Macho house. They manage to talk to many guys, but none of them dare to give their number to any of them. Luckily, the Christmas raffle arrives, giving away 2 tickets to the Japan version of Disney World, which they plan to use to ask for a date if Macho pulls the raffle numbers, which are hidden in his muscles. After many poses, the winner of the tickets is Tommy, and just like the other winners, she takes a Christmas photo. At the moment when Jason, the bald guy, tells them to pose, all the friendly college students transform into muscle beasts. And that's how all the girls leave disappointed, especially the sensei, who won't even be able to use the tickets to prepare for a cosplay competition, almost giving herself away. But luckily, Akieri saves her by asking for the tickets for herself and Macho. And so, with all the girls surprised, they go to spy on the date between Akieri and Macho. Well, except for Yaka because she has to work. Dressed as schoolgirls, including the sensei, they start following them around the amusement park. But all they see is a normal date while they meet the park's mascot, the fake version of Mickey Mouse. There, their sensei poses like a schoolgirl, which makes her students see her as a frustrated idol. Well, that's actually what she is, but Mickey thinks she's super buff. Back to the date where suddenly Macho takes Akieri into a dark tent. The girls run to see if he's going to make a move, but it turns out to be nothing more than a cosplay contest that he brought Macho to, who already enjoys dressing up. Meanwhile, Akieri needs to see more muscles, which according to Hibiki, she does every day, bringing out Akemi's dark side, as she says she needs to see muscles in a different place every now and then. Then we move on to their lesson of the day, incline bench press for some good pecs, while Satomi looks for the girls as she strolls around like a schoolgirl, thinking that if anyone saw her like this, she'd be filled with embarrassment. Just then, Aina appears dressed as a schoolgirl, making it clear that it's better to keep their little secret between them. Meanwhile, as the sensei celebrates the new year by drinking until she falls asleep, the girls are looking for a temple to make their wishes, finding one at the top of a mountain, which Hayaki says is perfect for gym bros. Hibiki isn't convinced until they tell her it's also effective for love. In this way, after explaining the hard benefits of climbing stairs, they reach the top, which is full of buff guys, where they are greeted by the muscle god, represented by the temple priest Macho. Hibiki tries to get him out of there because she thinks it's a joke that will annoy everyone else, but the bald guy clarifies that the trainer is not only certified in fitness, but also in faith, pure muscle faith. Although Hibiki doubts that praying in that temple will help her find a muscular guy, Macho tells her that she will get everything she asks for with faith. They then proceed to pose for no reason at all, being followed by everyone in the temple. After watching the sunrise, they go to eat, and Hibiki once again overindulges, so they need to find a place to train since Jim will be on vacation. Gina tries to show them the benefits of calisthenics, but they didn't count on the parks in Japan being so packed. She has to look for an alternative. Luckily, Akieri never goes out without her home workout guide, where the bodybuilder with a pig-like face teaches her how to do isometric exercises, which are really useful for training and also for attracting the attention of the neighbors who see them as weirdos. So it's better to just leave. Now that they're on vacation, they're getting bored, so Gina has the solution, a talent show.
Good. Service.
This is organized by the idol contest producer, who thinks that with so little talent, they won't get any ratings. Just when the girls dressed as schoolgirls arrive, including the teacher who completes her outfit with a wrestling mask, the producer worries about having old-fashioned troubles with me. But at least they make some impact, even though Gina's aerial chair routine would take hours and is very stiff, so they ask them to do something else. Ayaka thinks quickly, and seeing the teacher dressed for the occasion, she starts an epic neck bridge demonstration, which is explained by a macho guy, being recognized as one of the most important exercises for a wrestler, as it strengthens the neck. The climax is Ayaka sitting down to add weight to the bridge, showing tremendous strength and control, exciting the producer. However, after a while, he realizes that it's just one girl on top of another, not in the way people usually see them. Luckily, they still manage to improve the ratings, so their bosses tell them they need to make sure to hire the girls. As he thinks about this, to his luck and surprise, Jason arrives to offer him a deal he can't refuse. Silverman Jim prepares for the event, but Hibiki and Akieri stay back to watch TV and work until they hear about a men's contest with muscles, prompting them to join. Meanwhile, the bald guy and producer spy on them with excitement. At the beach, the girls flaunt swimsuits, but Gina feels the heat and cools off in the sea. The teacher and Ayaka's sister enjoy drinks. The girls find a watermelon and decide to smash it after choosing Machio's exercise of the day, trapeze lifts, great for stress relief, ending with exposed plot. At the beach, the girls flaunt swimsuits. Gina cools off in the sea. The teacher and Ayaka's sister sip drinks. They find a watermelon, smash it after Machio's exercise. The macho contest is cancelled, leading to the waifus contest. Kemi dances but is outshone. Ayaka's dragon push-up in a bikini gets her disqualified. The girls find a watermelon and decide to smash it, but first they choose Machio's exercise of the day. Trapeze lifts, great for stress relief. As usual, they end up with exposed plot. The awaited macho contest is cancelled due to lack of competitors, so they proceed to the waifus contest with open registration. The prize is just protein and photos of muscular guys, which excites Kemi. She starts with a Russian dance, but a fellow countrywoman steals the show. Ayaka attempts a dragon push-up in a revealing bikini and gets disqualified. Kemi performs a handstand with push-ups, explained by Machio like Julio the teacher. And now comes the moment the girls were waiting for, the macho contest, which gets cancelled due to a lack of competitors. So they go straight to the waifus contest, which will have open registration. However, the prize isn't very appealing since it's just protein and photos of muscular guys, which gets Kemi so fired up that she goes into yo-yo mode and starts the contest with a talent demonstration. Confidently, she enters with a Russian dance until one of her fellow countrywomen ends up stealing the show. Now it's Ayaka's turn, who will do a good dragon push-up. And to top it off, she'll do it in an extremely revealing bikini, which ends up being too much, and she gets disqualified. Next up is Kemi, who does a spectacular handstand with push-ups, which, as always, Machio explains like Julio the teacher. Akemi takes the lead, but Hibiki has a special plan as she prepares her boxing bag. With excitement building, the winner is announced. A tie between Akemiji and Vicky, resolved by returning to the bench press, their first exercise as gym sisters. The friends' seriousness creates a massive aura, and Akemi gives it her all, only to find Hibiki lost from the start due to hunger, making Kevin the victor. Meanwhile, Jason and Irie are lost at sea, stranded while trying to set up a camera session with the girls. Although his friend says he had fun, the bald guy remains motionless with a smile, and the producer hugs him. The friends' seriousness creates a dragon aura that collides. Akemi gives her all, but Hibiki loses from hunger, making Kevin the victor. Jason and Irie are lost at sea, stranded while setting up a camera session. Jason smiles. Akemi is crowned, celebrated with confetti, and in the ocean, Jason and Irie are lost, stranded. Jason smiles, hugged by the producer. With the girls, Akemi is crowned, celebrated with confetti, and everyone enjoys fireworks. Akemi feels unsatisfied due to an unfair competition with Rujibiki, but is calm because she had fun. They shake hands as best friends, but Bernie interrupts, bringing Jason. Back with the girls, we see Akemi being crowned, the older ones celebrating with colorful confetti, and then everyone plays and watches the fireworks. However, Akemi isn't satisfied in the end because she didn't have a fair competition against her friend Rujibiki. She's calm because she had fun, then gets sentimental, telling her that if it weren't for her, she wouldn't have lived through all those experiences or enjoyed training. Akemi responds that now she has more friends like her. After all the sentimental atmosphere, they shake hands as best friends. But the moment is interrupted by the arrival of Bernie, who brings Jason and Darian back from the ocean alive. So now everyone else arrives, and the story might end here or not, because we still need to see Hibiki step on the scale, which apparently shows she lost some of her extra weight. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a like and share it with all your friends. If you'd like to see any of my upcoming videos, don't forget to subscribe. I suggest you follow me on my social media to stay updated on my next videos. I'll leave the link in the description. With nothing more to say, see you next time. Bye.